Welcome to A Shock in the Dark. I'm the narrator tonight, coming to you from the UFO capital of the world. Except this story from Roswell, New Mexico is all about an identified flying object. For every episode of Season 5 of A Shock in the Dark, I'm driving all over the United States, traveling to where your letters take me. That's why right now I'm in Roswell, New Mexico for one of the strangest stories I've ever received in the history of the show. Let's get into it and read the letter. Hey, A Shock in the Dark. I am not a paranormal guy. I was born, oddly enough, in a place called Spooky Canyon. Yeah, that's a real place. Look it up. Anyway, I moved to Roswell, New Mexico when I was about 3 years old. I'm 46 now, so maybe being around all this UFO stuff my whole life has made me jaded, but I just don't believe in aliens or ghosts or, anything of that nature. My dad was in the Air Force, and he raised me and my brothers to be straightforward men. If I don't see it, I don't believe it. But something happened to me in February 2022, and I still can't believe it, and I don't know what to make of it, and it's kind of freaking me out still, so I thought, well, maybe I'll get over it after some time, but no, it's instead been weighing heavier on me as time goes by. I'm really, really hoping somebody who's witnessed this will hear it and tell me I'm not insane. I mean, I know what I saw. Anyway, sorry, here's what happened. My birthday is February 12th, and this year I was lucky enough that it fell on a Saturday. So me and my brother, I'll call him Daryl, decided to go on an overnight camping trip to Salt Creek Wilderness. Now, if you love animals, this is the place. Everything from, geese and cranes and pelicans to roadrunner, cottontails, jackrabbits, and insane sunsets and sunrises. But my brother and I decided not to bring a camera. We decided we need to live in the moment and not through a screen. Because we are morons. Because if I had a camera right then, I wouldn't be here questioning my own sanity right now. So my brother and I set up our camp, and we had just started cooking our early dinner when we noticed the sound of an old prop plane, a big one. We grew up on an Air Force base, and living in Roswell, there's always planes and helicopters of every kind flying overhead, but there's something about the sound of a large propeller plane that just grabs your attention. When you hear that sound, you will absolutely look up to see what it is, because you're sure to see some super cool classic airplane. And this was no exception. My brother is way better at identifying aircraft than I am, and he immediately knew it was a B-24, one of the great aircraft of World War II. They had 10 50 cal guns on them and carried about 8,000 pounds of bombs over entire oceans. So we see this amazing aircraft, and just about the same time as my brother's telling me what kind it is, we also noticed it was in trouble. I'm not a pilot. My brother's not a pilot, but both of us agreed the pilot was flying way too slow for the climb he was doing. And we could hear the engine start to sputter. My heart felt like it stopped beating. All the blood ran out of my head. I just froze, and sure enough, the plane flipped and went nose down and just started spiraling towards the earth. It was seconds before it smashed into the ground in a fireball. All this happened right in front of us. It crashed about maybe half a mile from our location. So we picked our jaws up off the ground, and without saying a word, we both ran over to Daryl's truck and drove as fast as we could toward the wreck. We wanted to see if there was anything we could do to help. On the way over, Daryl shouted, "Look!" And he pointed up, and Sure enough, at least one of the crew had made it out as we saw a parachute coming down. We hoped to see more, but it was just the one parachute. It looked like he was drifting a couple of miles past the accident location, so we decided to see where the parachute goes, but keep heading to the crash site. So we got to the plane, but it was very clear immediately that if there were other people on the plane, there was no way they could survive. We heard sirens in the distance, so we knew some more qualified people were on the way, so we just stood there. We couldn't help but notice the markings on the plane, though. 528th Bomb Squadron, 380th Bomb Group, and the pilot's last name, which is painted on the side of the plane, was Wiley. I noticed this and I remembered it because my uncle has that name. His name is Wiley, and he spells it exactly the same way, W-Y-L-I-E. So this whole convoy of military vehicles shows up, and a couple of helicopters, and this master sergeant comes over and asks us what we saw and what happened, and we described the events as they unfolded before us, and then we just left. They didn't ask us for contact information or anything, so we just went back to camp. We were stunned, and we thought for a minute maybe we shouldn't camp out, but we decided ultimately we should stay. Now, when there's an aircraft accident, there is always an investigation. But within 3 to 4 hours of this crash, they had hauled every single piece of this aircraft out on flatbed trucks. This struck us as odd. Also, the next morning, we went back to the crash site, and there was still a burnt hole in the ground, but I swear there was not one single shred, not one nut, not one bolt left. Every piece of that giant bomb was just gone. They had hauled it all away. All of that would have been a crazy story. But Daryl and I couldn't help but notice there was nothing on the news. There was nothing about any plane crash in the paper. I looked online for it, and I found it. The article I found was most certainly referring to the crash that me and my brother saw. It said 8 of 9 crew were killed aboard a consolidated B-24 Liberator of the 528th Bomb Squadron, Biggsfield, Texas, piloted by Charles C. Wiley, when it suffered engine failure coming down 8 miles from Roswell, New Mexico on February 12th, 1943. No, we didn't have a, reality glitch. The trucks and helicopters that showed up were clearly modern machines, and before you ask, my brother and I will have one too many beers every now and then, but we don't do any drugs, and besides, even if we did, we didn't have a simultaneous hallucination. This happened. We saw that happen. Yet, it happened in 1943? I've been absolutely going insane ever since. My brother will tell you he saw it. I'll tell you. If it wasn't for him, I would absolutely think I lost my mind, but he saw it too. This was a giant bomber, a prop plane with like 4 engines. Somebody else had to have seen this. February 12th, 2022. If you were in the area of Roswell, New Mexico around that time, please write in like I have and tell your story. I need to know it was not just me and my brother. I need to know what happened. I need to know. Thanks, Anonymous. Well, the Shock in the Dark tour of the United States continues as your letters dictate our journey. Next week, maybe I'll be where you are. To support this channel and keep it up and running, please subscribe or make a comment, give me a thumbs up, share it with a friend, copy and paste a poem in the comments, see if I care. Every little bit helps. In the meantime, this is the narrator. Talk to you next week, and good night, whoever and wherever you are.